The courtroom was silent, but the tension in the air was so thick it felt almost heavy. Everyone inside could sense that something serious was about to happen. Martell Holt sat at the table, jaw tight, eyes burning with frustration. It wasn't the confident, charming Martell fans were used to seeing on television. This was a man under pressure. And for once, the cameras weren't rolling. This wasn't about ratings or drama for a reality show. This was real life. This was about his children. Across the room sat the guardian ad litem, the person the court had appointed to represent the best interests of Martell and Melody's kids. Their role was simple, but powerful: to speak for the children, to assess what kind of environment was best for them, and to give the judge an unbiased report. But what should have been a calm, professional conversation soon turned into a scene no one in that courtroom would forget. Witnesses later described the moment Martell lost his temper. It started small, a disagreement over how he communicated with Melody about the kids' schedules. But within minutes, voices were raised. Martell's frustration boiled over. He reportedly challenged the guardian's statements, his tone sharp and defensive. Some said his words crossed a line. Others said he looked like a man who had completely lost control of his emotions. And somewhere in the middle of it all, one phrase echoed through the room, a phrase that has now become viral online: "Let's thug it." No one knew if he truly said it or not, but that phrase became the symbol of everything people now associate with Martell's downfall: pride, ego, and chaos. The guardian ad litem, shocked and visibly uncomfortable, paused before responding. For a moment, it felt like time stopped. What was supposed to be a civil custody hearing had turned into something explosive. Martell's journey to this moment didn't happen overnight. Once upon a time, he and Melody Shari were the definition of success and unity. Together, they built an empire on Love and Marriage Huntsville, a show that introduced them as a powerful couple with drive, ambition, and style. Viewers admired how they balanced business, family, and fame. But behind the smiles and perfectly curated scenes, cracks were forming. And when those cracks widened, everything fell apart. The affair, the public breakup, and the long, bitter custody battle all played out under the watchful eyes of fans and critics alike. Every argument, every accusation, every tear became part of their storyline. But now there was no script, no editing, no producers. This was a courtroom, and it demanded honesty, respect, and restraint. And from what's being said, Martell showed very little of any of those. When the guardian questioned him about his ability to co-parent, things reportedly took a dark turn. Martell allegedly became defensive, interrupting and refusing to answer directly. He claimed he was being treated unfairly, that people were painting him as a villain. But the court doesn't deal in image, it deals in facts. And the facts, according to whispers coming from Huntsville, weren't in his favor. Those who know Martell say his biggest struggle isn't with Melody or the system, it's with himself. His pride, his inability to admit fault, and his constant need to control the narrative have made things worse over time. The courtroom isn't like reality TV. There's no way to charm your way out of a bad situation. Every action, every outburst, every word can have real consequences, especially when children are involved. Meanwhile, Melody has handled things in a completely different way. She's remained calm, collected, and focused on her goals. Her posts on social media show a woman grounded in faith and purpose. One of her recent posts read, "No weapon formed against me shall prosper," a quiet but powerful message to anyone doubting her strength. While Martell has been surrounded by controversy, Melody has been busy growing her business, making music, and caring for her children. Her silence and composure have become her greatest weapons. But the fallout from Martell's courtroom behavior spread fast. Within hours, people in Huntsville were talking. The phrase, "let's thug it," became a meme, a symbol of how far Martell had fallen from grace. Fans who once supported him began expressing disappointment. Social media lit up with comments calling him immature, arrogant, and reckless. Even those who once defended him found it hard to justify his behavior this time. Behind the scenes, the Guardian ad litem's report is rumored to be devastating. Sources claim it highlights Martell's inability to communicate respectfully and his tendency to become combative. It reportedly includes examples of times when he refused to compromise or took an aggressive tone with Melody. If those details are true, they could heavily influence the judge's final decision about custody and visitation. And yet, instead of showing humility or remorse, Martell seems to be doubling down. His social media remains full of gym selfies, motivational quotes, and captions about being misunderstood. To some, it looks like he's trying to convince the world and himself that everything is fine. But deep down, people can sense the desperation. The confidence that once made him magnetic now feels forced. Every post feels like an attempt to distract from the reality of what's happening behind closed doors. It's hard not to think about how different things could have been. There was a time when Martell and Melody stood together as a symbol of love, business, and Black excellence. They had everything: a family, success, and the admiration of fans. But as fame grew, so did the ego. And when ego takes the driver's seat, everything else eventually crashes. Which is what makes this story so tragic. It's not just about custody or court battles. It's about a man who had it all and is now fighting to hold on to what little he has left. Even the rest of the Love and Marriage Huntsville cast seems to be keeping their distance. Marsaw Scott posted about staying disciplined when others lose control. Letitia Scott shared a quote about letting people expose themselves. Kimmy Scott talked about emotional maturity. They never mentioned Martell by name, but fans knew exactly who they were referring to. Their silence says it all. They've seen this before, and they know better than to get caught up in it again. And then there's Ariane Curry, the woman whose name will forever be linked to Martell's downfall. Her occasional cryptic posts still stir the internet, reminding everyone of how the entire scandal began. She doesn't even have to say much. One quote, one emoji, one subtle caption is enough to send social media into chaos. She's like a ghost of his past, always hovering, reminding him of the mistakes that changed his life forever. The truth is, Martell's story is one of lost potential. He could have rebuilt his image, focused on his children, and proven everyone wrong. But each time he's given a chance, something happens. Another argument, another public meltdown, another defensive post. It's like watching someone who can't get out of their own way. Instead of reflecting and changing, he reacts. Instead of listening, he attacks. And each time he loses a little more respect, a little more support, and maybe even a little more access to the people he claims to love most, his kids. The Guardian ad litem's report is likely to carry a lot of weight. Judges rely heavily on these recommendations. If the report truly portrays Martell as combative or unstable, it could mean reduced visitation or stricter conditions. This isn't about popularity anymore. It's about legal consequences. The court will prioritize what's best for the children, not who has the better Instagram presence. And that's where the contrast between Martell and Melody becomes so clear. Melody's energy is focused on peace, growth, and stability. Martell's energy, on the other hand, seems tied to control, pride, and performance. She's building a legacy for her children. He's fighting to protect an image that's already cracked. But still, some fans hold out hope that this could be Martell's wake-up call. Maybe this explosion in court will finally force him to look in the mirror. Maybe he'll realize that real strength isn't about shouting or proving people wrong. It's about admitting when you're wrong and doing better. Maybe he'll take accountability, go to therapy, and truly work on himself. Because deep down, there's still potential. There's still a man who loves his children and could be a great father if he let go of his pride. The question is, will he? Every move Martell makes now is being watched closely, not just by fans, but by the court, by the judge, by the guardian ad litem. Every post, every live stream, every quote matters. It's no longer entertainment, it's evidence. And that's the dangerous part, when your real life becomes your storyline and your storyline becomes your real life. It's hard to tell where the performance ends. Meanwhile, Melody keeps winning in silence.